command's called place, and all it is teaching your dog to target either a dog bed. You could use a mat. You could even use a towel. Just teaching the dog to go to a specific area and just stay there until they receive a release word. Some of the ways that we use it is if we have guests come over so the dogs aren't bothering them. If we're eating and we don't want dogs in our face, we may send them to place. And if we're carrying something inside, we actually crack the door open a little bit and tell them place. That way when we come in the house, they're already on their bed. We use it for a ton of different purposes, but I'm going to show you how to teach it today and how to proof it, and hopefully you'll be able to use it as much as we do. So this is Shelby here, and of course she already knows the command, but I'm going to just walk you through how to do it. All I've got is her kibble, and I always recommend using their kibble. That way you just don't have to use extra treats. To start out teaching something new, Shelby. You want to start teaching this command by doing something called luring, which is where you basically just take some of their food and you put it to their nose and you get them to follow it wherever you want them to go. Yes, good girl. So you want to lure them onto the bed several times, and then you can also lure them off. Good girl. And then you just want to keep practicing luring them. Yes. And what you'll find is if you lure them onto the bed enough, especially if it's a focal point during that training session, the dog is going to start to offer the behavior without you luring them. So I'm just going to hold some food. Yes. And you see how she offered it before I lured her or asked her to do anything? That's just because she's starting to put things together in her brain, and she says, oh, well, I've been rewarded a couple of times for going to bed. That must be what she wants from me. After you've perfected them getting onto the bed without luring, yes, just like that, you're going to want to add the verbal command. The verbal command we use is place. Whenever we want them on their bed, we say, place. Yes. You can also to build up the duration of them staying on the bed, because at first they're not going to understand that once they go on the bed, you're probably going to want them on the bed for an extended period of time. So you can also reward them anytime that they offer to stay on their bed. You can also leave the bed out during the day and reward them for choosing to go onto the bed without a command, because the whole goal is to make their bed or whatever you choose to use a very positive place, because if you're going to use it frequently, you don't want it to be a negative thing to the dog. Now, just as important as teaching the command to get on the bed, you also need to teach them that they don't get off the bed without a specific command too. I call this a release word. Ours is break, and it's the one we use for all of our commands. So whether it's sit, down, place, heel, the command that we use to let the dogs know that they're done with a specific task is the word break. So I'd say, Shelby, break. Yes, good girl. I'm just holding the bed because it's sliding on the floor here. And that is the word that signals to the dog that they've done what we've asked and that they're done with a specific command. This is really important for place, because if not, you may have a dog that'll go onto the bed really easily, but then as soon as something distracts them, they hop right off of the bed. So once you practice getting on the bed, you've added the verbal command place, you've added the release word break or okay or yes, whatever word you want to use. You can then practice adding in some distractions. So as you can see, she's on her bed. Actually, Gunner's on his bed too. I'm just going to throw some food down. And you can see she's holding it. Yes, Shelby, right? Throwing food down or putting toys in the floor that they like, or even for a lot of dogs, Shelby included, a human inviting them in like this is a really difficult thing for a lot of dogs. So it's a really distracting thing to work through. And if you're going to use this command for if you have guests over or very distracting circumstances going on, you're definitely going to want them to be able to hold the command through distractions. I think it's also important to note that, of course, I have this bed in the middle of the living room floor. This is not where her bed usually is, and the same could be said for when you're teaching it. You're probably going to have it in a different place than where you decide to keep it in your house. You definitely want to practice sending them to their bed from different areas in the house. So for Shelby here, I would say Shelby, bring. And we may try sending her from over here. Shelby, place. Good girl. Just to make sure she understands that the command is tied to the bed. So it's not tied to laying down on the floor, or it's not tied to anything else other than the bed itself. And you want to make sure you reinforce the fact that no matter where in the room that you place their bed, you can send them to their bed, whether you're standing outside of your door, whether you're in the hallway, whether you're in a different room. And once you've perfected sending them to their bed and you've put the bed wherever you want it to be in your house, you've practiced releasing them from their bed. If your release word isn't quite solid, I would recommend testing the dog a little bit. So with Shelby here, she gets really excited about her name. So I would test her with her name to make sure she knows that's not her cue to get off the bed. I also like to test them with words that might sound similar in case me and my husband are having a conversation that has a similar sounding word in it as their release word. I just want to make sure that there's no confusion with the command or when they're allowed to be done with that command. Jimmy girl. Good girl. And I would reward her for staying on the bed because she didn't receive a release word. It's just another version of distracting her. I would say something like brisket. And of course that's not the release word, but the beginning of it sounds similar. And I would just continue to do stuff like this just to test them and distract them because you want the command to be really solid. And I think it's important to note that your dogs are never going to be perfect. But this command overall has definitely helped us with a lot of different situations. It's where we feed them. It's where we put them if we have our son in the floor playing. It's where we put them if we have guests over or somebody's eating. Just a really versatile command, and we use it every single day. And I'm really glad that I taught it, and I wanted to share it with you guys. If you have any questions or if you have any other useful dog commands that you think are just as useful, then let me know down below. And if not, then I'll see you next time.